My name is Guillaume Denoy de Saint-Marc. I'm French. I've been on the field of terrorism and victims of terrorism for 30 years because I've lost my father in a terrorist attack 30 years ago. I was in different associations and I created the French Associations for Victims of Terrorism in 2009, and I'm at the head of this association.
Hello, Guillaume. What is your approach to tackling radicalization in your work?
I'm working mainly on helping the victims of terrorism, but also on preventing radicalization through the voice of the victims of terrorism. We're working with students in schools and also persons in prison because we try to have a discussion and to bring back the humanity in the story, telling about our story, telling without any sense of revenge or violence or sadness, just to tell the stories as it is, with the bad parts and the good parts. And the way is to be a witness of what is victim of terrorism, to speak about terrorism, to speak about how do you get out of a victimized position, how do you avoid denying what happened in the same time, and how you can have a fantastic life even if you have been a victim. And this is very important when we counter radicalization because radicalized persons see themselves as victims. They can be victims of different things, racism or different things. But if they stay in their victimized position, they can fall into anger and have the feeling of vengeance. And that's how they are hooked by the extremists. So we try to show that we have the same feeling of being a victim of the society by a way, having a problem with the society that doesn't accept us, and that's a common vision that we have with some of the extremists. But we found another path which was rebuilding ourselves, rebuilding the links with the society, being part of the society, being a citizen again, because what happened to us make us bigger. And that's what we try to show with a lot of humility, because of course what happened to us is still painful, but we are just human beings and willing to live in a nice world, promoting the European values of democracy, for example. And very often when we meet radicalized persons, not the more radicalized, but primary radicalized persons in prisons, they have the feeling that we have the same story, more or less, at the beginning, but we didn't choose the same path. And what they ask, how did you manage not to fall into anger? And that's a very important question on which we work afterwards. Also, we show them they have a shock because they see smiling victims who are happy, who do not judge them, who accept to exchange with them. And this is something that can break the vision of the society they have, which is not the good one.
How does your organization collaborate with prisons?
The recipe is always for the victims they're not paid. They have to do this on a voluntary basis. There is always 2 or 3 victims, not one victim alone, because we have to say different stories. And we can help each other, because maybe we will be in a bad mood that day or we won't make it. We have also some videos that can help us if someone is not there to supply, that there is to have another story. We always come with different stories, different form of terrorism, different ages, different situations towards the terrorism, just to show that, in fact, we say the same thing, even if we don't have the same position and it was not the same type of violence. And this is the way to show that it's universal. So that's very important. Of course, there is training with the victims before. We try to know the mood of the audience we're going to meet. We always work with the psychologists and the persons in the prisons before. There should always be someone from the prison to stay focused on the subject and not to go on other subjects which are not the aim of the meeting. And after, there is no rules because it's just magic. It's just people speaking. And what is very important, we have to speak, but they have to ask questions and they have to speak also. What is very important is that everyone can be able to speak up. What is incredible is that in prisons, they always try to see that they're big, tough guys. And we come and we say that we are weak. and strong in the same time, but also we have weakness. We had a bad part, we suffered, and then they say about their weak story also, how they suffered. And they never do it in prison because they never want to show that they can be vulnerable. And that's the beginning of the true story, when we can exchange and listen to them without judging. What we often do after this first exchange is that we come back a second time with a smaller group, with one victim, and we speak all together for 4 hours, telling our stories, sharing our stories, which is the second step. And this is a time where the persons are really opened, because we offer our weakness, and it's very important that they know that we can even be an opponent during the trial, because we are in the trials as a partie civile, so we are against them. And we don't know them when we see them in prison. We don't know why they're here, and we don't want to know. But we have a surprise sometimes in some of the trials to see them again a second time. And that's funny because we recognize them ourselves. We go and see them, we shake hands, we have respect for each other. And during all the trial, we don't speak to each other, and we speak together again after the sentence. But there is no aggressivity between the two parts, which change completely the way they're going to speak during the trial.
What are the biggest challenges you face?
I would say the difficulties is just for the system to accept the vision that victims of terrorism can go in prison. After, everything is very smooth. It's natural, because we are just broken persons speaking to other broken persons. And immediately there is a link. We don't judge them. We are different. We don't pretend to be their friends, but we are telling a story that rings a bell in their own stories. And so the things are going naturally very smooth afterwards. So I would say that the main difficulty is being able to do what we can do.
How does it work with the different stakeholders?
We have very good relationship with the Ministry of Justice and the person taking care of prisons. We have more difficult relations with private companies who have been chosen to prevent radicalization in prison, because they don't see us, they don't understand what we could bring. I hope it will change. Everybody sees now what the added value that we can have, and I'm really looking forward for that, because we have about 30 victims who are trained now to speak into different public. Not all of them are able to speak in prison, but that's an extra capacity they can have. And it's very important to take care of the victims, because they should not be re-victimized.
What do you find the most rewarding?
I think it's human exchange that we can have with others, with the victims, but also with the audience. We are going out from the black and white vision. Everything is gray, everything is complicated. And that's very important that we have this very deep discussions with the audience. And it's good for us as victims, and it's also good for the audience, because then there is a real exchange. Even if at the end we will not have the same ideas and will not be friends, that's not the purpose of it. It's just for us to exchange and to accept that we can think differently and speak about it.
How has RAN helped you? Is there anything more you would like or expect from RAN?
RAN is very important for me. I was, from the very beginning of the RAN, I was a working group leader for the group of the victims and the voice of the victims in counter-radicalization. It's very important that we can share experience between persons doing the same job, but also with person doing a different job. I know that we couldn't have done what we did in prison if we didn't meet the French administration of prisons during the RAN sessions. That's how it was a possibility to us to know each other and to have confidence, because nothing works without confidence and knowing the others. It's a way of networking persons, make them work on a specific items. It's very important also for us as associations of victims to be involved in that system, to be in contact with all the other partners, and also to have our own group, because it's a way of also to maintain the network between us. So we are very happy about that.
What did you take from a RAN meeting that you used or applied in your work in prisons?
All the work we did about how can we use the voice of the victims of terrorism in preventing radicalization has been a common work with a lot of participants from different countries. And it would have not been possible without sharing our ideas, mixing our vision, showing our different culture, different way of making it.
Thanks to Guillaume Denoy de Saint-Marc founder and executive director of the French Association for Victims of Terrorism, afvt.org. Guillaume was taking part in the meeting Preparation for Remembrance Day 2020. Please visit the website of the Radicalization Awareness Network, RAN, to find more information about its activities. Thank you very much for listening, and stay tuned for our next monthly interview podcast.